All right, guys, you don't know me. My name is Josh. I do anything what I can to save a buck. This is a steering rack and pinion out of a 2015 F150. All forums say this is not serviceable and you can't fix it. It's grinding, it was making noise, it's doing all kinds of things. Been trying to figure it out. Takes literally 20 minutes to get it out of the truck. Not a big deal. 2 bolts, you're out, and the tie rod ends. You're done, right? Now, I just thought for giggles, you know, to look up in the internet, find out if they sell the part. Now, I do still have to work on the knuckle in here, but I decided to open up, see how serviceable this is, because I know the 2013s are pretty difficult, but you can service them. Look at how easy that is going to be. But look how bad that belt is, right? That is the problem. Simply a cam bolt with a star or Torx head on it is all that holds that thing tensioned. They sell that belt with seals, mind you, if there are any seals, with this seal right here, 45 bucks on the internet, 2-day shipping. Why on earth would you drop $2,000 for an entire rack and pinion when literally that is all that's wrong with it? This is so frustrating. These things are back ordered by 3 months, some of them. For a new one, it's like 2,200 bucks. Remand is 800 bucks. And when they remanufacture, I've checked it out, all they do is double check electronics and replace that belt. That's it. $45. I'm going to come back at you once it's done. I'm going to verify that it works, all that. But seriously, I'm not dropping $800 on this thing. More to come, and I'll update you. But again, look how serviceable that is. The 2013s were actually inside a housing. You had to snake that belt through. This is a 2015. As simple as that cam bolt right there. Holy smokes. Thanks, guys. All right, everybody, this is again follow up on the video that I made the other day on rechanging the belt on the inside of a 2015, I believe, through 18 Ford F150. This is one that has a 145-inch wheelbase. I guess it does matter for this guy. To get to this point, people wanted me to make a how-to video. To get to this point, there are all kinds of videos on the replacement of a 2015 to 18 steering rack and pinion. Only thing I can say is that it's pretty easy. Check those videos out. The only things to think about is that these bolts here, the big ones here that hold it on, are torque to yield bolts. I'll leave it up to you. Can't tell you exactly what to do on this. If you want to replace the bolts, great. I know a lot of people that simply just put some, I've heard some techs, all they do is put some Loctite on this and they're good to go and torque it down to the spec. But again, torque to yield bolts, probably advise placing them. I probably won't. I'm just going to put some Loctite on there, call it good. But I wanted to mock this up, and I've mocked it back up again to kind of show you where I was, what I did, and then we'll go from there. Hang on a second. All right, to take the part off of this that needs to be replaced, again, there is the electric motor that runs it. The ECU is over here. This is what I thought was going to be a gear housing, what ended up being a gear belt housing. It's as simple as a couple things. First and foremost, you're going to want to pop this, I suppose, this clamp that was all around there. You're going to either want to replace it. I personally probably going to just simply put some heavy duty zip ties on it for now to get me by, and then I'll put a nice pipe clamp or pipe hose clamp on there, and we'll go from there. But again, just has to keep the dust and debris out. So you're going to want to crack into the housing. That 5mm Allen wrench or Allen driver. So go ahead and take those off, and when I have these off, I will get back to you again. Just come right off of there. All right, so now I have this loose. The housing for the belt is all loose. The first thing you're going to want to do before you get too far into this, pull this loose, and if I can do it with one hand, you'll notice that actually this is apart just because I did have it apart. There is a white collar right inside there. That actually goes over the top of the nut for the tie rod end here. That nut takes this bad boy right here, a 42mm open end box end wrench, and goes right over that. You're going to need a couple guys, maybe one other guy, put it on the ground, and it will just torque right off of there, so it's not that big a deal. And don't worry about, these are massive gears, so don't really worry about munging that up too much. But once you get it loose, it does just spin off. Once I have this all off, this all comes off, this housing comes off, and I'll show you what's underneath. So we'll start by spinning this off. As I said, there was a nylon cover over the top of this, and that is inside here. If I can work with one hand again. And this nylon cover, you'll have to pry it off real lightly with a flathead screwdriver to get to the part of the nut, to get to get the wrench on it, to get the flat spots on it. I'm going to set this aside and I'll show you the reveal. Now, as I look at this, guys, if this pulls off the way I'm hoping it does, this whole thing actually could be serviceable from inside the truck. So you may not have to drop this whole thing out. Well, it was easy enough to drop it out, but to know that you could probably get to this without dropping the whole thing, awesome. All right, so you see this. This was the belt that was shot. I put it back on just for demonstration purposes. There is the cam right here with the Torx screw there. This is the new belt. Couple things that I'm discovering that you're needing to pay attention to. All right, so if you look very carefully, the gearing or the cogs that the belt sits on, they are directional. Okay, they are directional. Not sure why they did that engineering wise. Maybe it's to keep the traction on the belt even better. But that will come into play when you put the new belt on. So I just paid attention to how this belt was set up, that the lettering's on the side. If you look, again, it's really hard to tell, but even the tread or the teeth on that belt are directional. They go up, I suppose, they go upward to the right like that a little bit. So that's going to mean you need to pay attention. If I find that out, it actually lines up like this. So the rotation, I guess the letter or the arrows will go this direction, at least on this part. If that's wrong, I will correct it. But I'm going to take this belt off. And again, I have the cam pre-loosened with the Torx bit here. And if I go like that, well, I'm going to have to need to get a little more torque on that. I did just finger tighten it, but so that just comes loose. Okay, and it wasn't very tight to begin with. But the belt, you're going to have to pay attention to the tension on the belt. The tension on the belt actually was pretty tight, but the torque on the screw was not. But the tension on the belt was fairly tight. I don't know how tight it has to be. There's not that spec that I see anywhere. So I'm going to try to mimic where the position, generally where the position was of the cam right there, that's inside that. And that was actually closer to a pretty tight tolerances on this. So the belt was actually pretty immovable before I took it off. So I'm going to take the belt, this completely off, because I really believe that's the only way that you can get the belt completely off as well. You can see that's really shredded, right? Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to take some time. I'm going to clean the dust off of this, the debris off of it. I probably will take, you can see there's some grease film in here. I will take just a little bit of grease that I have laying around. I will put it around the shaft here, just so that this does screw in and out very easily. And we'll talk about other things you're going to want to think about, things that I did not think about as we move forward. I am checking for bearing tolerances and seeing if that might have been a reason why the belt fried. Like any sort of moving with the bearings, that feels really good. There's nothing shaking or moving around here. Yeah, what I was saying is that no play here, no play here. There's no reason that belt should have gone out except for old age, 180,000 miles. And yeah, that's the only reason I can think of, or a defect in the belt. More to come. When we get this kind of prepped, ready to go, I'll show you more. All right, we're back. I've cleaned out all the belt residue. I have taken some all-purpose grease and put it on there. I don't know if that's the right application, but I think so. So don't roast me if it is. One of the things to be very cautious about that I didn't think about, maybe put the belt on before you put the grease on. That way you don't have to worry about getting grease on the belt, which I didn't, except for maybe on the back side here, which is okay. I do not have the tensioner on there yet. That is the next piece. I will do so in just a moment. Again, I paid attention to the direction. You can see how the direction lines up right with that spline. And I with these splines, so it fits nicely. I'm going to work on getting that tensioner cleaned up and put on there, and I'll come right back. All right, we are at the point of the tool is not available for the job portion of our video. And we're going to see if this works. What I've taken is just this old wire brush with get a little bit of leverage on there. I'm hoping I can get it tight enough, and it even feels just by putting a little bit on there that I do have a little bit of tightness on it, So, and that cam is really close to where it was. It needs to be over about to the, if you're thinking that's 12 o'clock, it needs to be almost to the 1 o'clock, the top of that cam on this particular vehicle. So I'm going to verify the belt. I'm going to try to get it to that portion. I can't do it one-handed, so I'm going to do that. But again, I'm just wedging this piece of wood. Again, don't want to mar anything up against the housing and against the cam. And we'll see how tight I can get it without going too tight. Not sure if that's possible, but we'll see. All right, praying to God. We'll see how this goes. It looks like it's got some good tension without being over tensioned. It looks like the cam is in the same spot that it was, fairly close to where it was when I pulled the old belt off. It spins with a good amount of play, without, I guess not play, but it's not forced. So those are things I'm checking on. I'm checking for belt flex. I did rotate it one complete turn to make sure the belt doesn't lock either way. Now, one thing to be thinking about as you're turning, you're going to have to get that guy back in the same position that he was in pre-removal so that it lines up with the steering shaft, right? So I'm just going to be playing with that once I get it up into the truck, and I believe, yep, I believe it goes that direction, roughly. But if your front wheels aren't cocked sideways, you left them where they were, and your wheel is more or less right where it's at, you shouldn't have to get realigned. The most you'd have to do is turn that yet another rotation to make sure that it lines up with your steering wheel. Because when you took this guy out, its torque to tolerance is not, I didn't mess with the actual alignment. So theoretically, you shouldn't have to get aligned because that just torques down. Theoretically. So I'm going to work on putting some things back together again, and you'll see how it goes. The next piece that I'm going to be doing is, I cleaned that out, by the way. Did not come with a seal, so didn't need it. The seal's in good shape. Seal's all lubricated and ready to rock. But that's just going to go on there and torque those screws down, and the next time you see it should be when I'm starting to wrap things up. All right, getting ready to put the tire rod on. Don't forget the nylon cover, and make sure it's cupped towards me, I suppose, because it goes over that guy. All right, all it takes is a couple twists and some refit on a wrench, and I'll be able to tap that thing back together. All right, it is currently back together again. Everything's torqued down. This is for Micro Accurates 2. The tie rod end is in and torqued. Just use a hose clamp there. I'm going to double check that and make sure it doesn't come out, but I think it's good. I might have to back it off and put it back on a little bit better. Now we're going to work on putting it back in the truck. From here on out, it really is follow that YouTube videos that show you how to put a rack and pinion back in. It really is, whether or not I plug it in and it works. I don't think I should have to reprogram the ECU. It should be still factoring settings. Everything should be good. We'll let you know at the end if it works or not. Follow that, use those YouTube videos again how to put this on. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you service a quote-unquote unserviceable power steering, electronic power steering. And you replace the belt, nothing to it. I am going to double check alignment, which in all intents and purposes should be okay. Retorque wheels, and I think we're golden. For other how-to videos, go to somewhere else. This was, you know, my first time, I guess, if you don't like it. But otherwise, I hope it helped. And yeah, it works. For the moment, at least. We'll see how long it lasts. If it doesn't last, I'll post an update too. But that's how you replace a belt on a 2015 to 18 electronic power steering module or electronic power steering rack. There you go. Thanks, guys.